Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show here on Channel 1 Television. On The Point of View, we get the right guests, ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. Tonight's show is coming to you from the sidelines of a very important consultation discussing three key themes: energy transition, critical minerals, and structural economic transformation. These are themes viewers are familiar with. But we're going to do it in a very interesting way. We'll be speaking about Ghana's lithium deal and where it is at, and finding out what this country can learn from other national case studies. We'll go to Kenya, we'll go to South Africa, we'll even go to DRC and possibly Indonesia on lessons on how to manage natural resources in a way that is both beneficial for now and for the future. Stay with us.
You're probably wondering how Ebo got here. Oh, Ebo. You see, Ebo is not a bad guy. He's got plans. Big plans. But there's just one small problem. His wallet didn't get the memo. So he decides to take a shortcut. That was a bad idea. And that's how he found himself sitting across area champion, the great Abu Kailoyo. Let's just say, not every quick fix fixes everything. But with a Stanbic loan, he gets the upgrade he needs and the freedom to actually breathe. With a Stanbic loan, the only thing chasing you are your dreams.
Rooted in heritage. Shaped by ambition. Defined by style, inspired by soul. This is Afro Quality, the first multi-country concept store for African brands, now in Nairobi, Kigali, and Accra.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, Mommy.
The second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late?
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. Kofi be the luckiest. Kofi from Georgia be luckiest. From not the block, cause she be luckiest. Me and you Kofi be luckiest. No matter what you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Senya God the apple boom. If you put it was at so would the coming of the son of man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompt and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Welcome back. So tonight I'm going to start with a good old friend, Dr. Yao Graham, who is the head of the Third World Network. They have co-organized a conversation here in Accra with delegates from all over the world discussing how the energy transition and discussions around critical earth minerals must be framed so that Africa's long-desired economic transformation would happen. As we know, the majority in Parliament is attempting to redo the lithium deal that we have come up with for the company called Berari. Initially, there was a 10% rate of royalty. The government's parliamentarians is arguing that that's even illegal. We should go to 5%. Dr. Graham and his friends believe that it's not even a question of the 10 or 5%. There are more critical issues that need to be discussed on how not just lithium, but other natural resources should be governed. Doc, thanks for joining us on the program. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
So you've managed to bring friends from all over the third world, generally, into Africa, into Ghana.
And also people from Europe.
Wonderful. And you're focusing on energy transition and what is called critical earth minerals.
Critical minerals.
Critical minerals. Of
Critical
which,
energy transition minerals.
wonderful. Of
like
which
lithium
would be part. I think the opening question is, what lessons have we failed to learn from regular extractives that if we don't apply to this energy transition minerals, we would regret?
The first thing to learn is always to remember that these are non-renewable resources, and therefore the way we exploit them should generate as much value as possible, not only for the current generation, but for future generations. As much value as possible beyond revenue, but also the wider development of the economy. This is the lesson to learn from every country which has exploited its mineral resources for the advancement of their people and also the transformation of their economies.
That means that the fixation with fiscal regimes is either misguided or overrated.
Fiscal regimes are extremely important because at least on the raw mineral, you make sure that you get a return, because the other forms of value require additional investment. So as the owner of the resource, when it comes out of the ground, generally the country should get a share. The royalty is not based on profit or anything. It is that you've taken out X amount of mineral from the ground, give us X percent of it. And the reason why the lithium thing, if you remember, there was such a discussion about it, goes to the issue of critical minerals. Critical minerals are the minerals which have come into prominence and importance because of their role in generating renewable energy and allowing us to cut emissions from the burning of fossil fuels, and therefore would allow us to undertake the transition from dependence on fossil fuel to alternative renewable energy. So because of that, of course, they become very important and they become points of contestation. So lithium in Ghana has got that importance globally. And the thing about the royalty rate, therefore, is that with that premium on lithium, it is possible to also get a premium on the royalty that you collect on it. And this is not unique to Ghana. Other countries define regimes which seek to get a premium, what they consider to be the minerals that it is possible to get a premium on the royalty.
The agreement with the Atlantic Lithium and its local subsidiary seems to have stalled. October 2023 was when the initial agreement was contemplated. For some parliamentary reasons, they couldn't sign. At the time, the opposition said that the 10% royalty rate was too high, and they also felt that we needed to lock in joint ventureships and possibly a local entity that can add value. A year and a half later, that party is in government, and they're telling us that the 10% is illegal, and we're not even sure if there's any commitment to setting up a JV or local processing. How did we get here?
Well, I think we got here also because really there was a rush to develop an agreement for one company rather than to take time to develop a methodical long-term framework for how we are going to utilize our critical minerals. And don't forget that lithium is not the only critical mineral that we have in Ghana. We've been mining manganese for more than 100 years. This is one of the battery minerals. We've been mining bauxite for more than 80 years. Bauxite is aluminum is also listed as a critical mineral. So we have a number of them. And as we are sitting here, the Ghanaian public do not know the critical mineral policy that was announced by the last government. It is clear that that process was not completed, and yet there was a hurry to grant a lease to one company. I have no doubt that the hurry to grant the lease was driven by two related factors. Mineral policy in Ghana is still dominated by the prioritization of revenue. Secondly, as is often the case with agreements in this country, there were pressures, lobbies that we need to get this thing out of the door, so the project can go on, we'll get revenue, it will signal to potential investors and so on. So there was not a comprehensive framework for this. Okay, so I can see how we arrived there. So the first thing is the absence of a fully thought through policy, and secondly, the rush with a particular contract, concession outside the context of a more thought through.
So are you
policy.
saying we require a critical earth mineral or critical minerals policy as different from a mining policy?
Yes, because actually you can have a mining policy which governs the exploitation of minerals and of concessions granting and so on. But the use of minerals usually is not a mineral policy issue, but it's actually maybe an industrial policy issue, which is connected to how does trade policy affect your ability to invest in value addition, what skills do we need to be able to control. So there are a range of sectoral things which affect how you benefit from your minerals. But there's a core mining sector issue which has to do with your regime around how you exploit your minerals as minerals. So, and in some cases also, therefore, you have a special regime for minerals. So if you look in the Minerals and Mining Act, for example, they have carved out something like uranium as a mineral to be given a particular regime. When under Akufo-Addo, manganese and bauxite were taken out of the purview of the normal operation of the Minerals and Mining Act, and integrated companies were created. Okay, those are examples. More recently, the government handed over the whole, Akufo-Addo's government handed the whole of the Songo Lagoon to one company, controversially, but with the justification that will help set up a salt entity. So having a particular policy for a mineral or a subsector is not unique. So we are talking therefore about the clarity of the purpose and the instruments that you bring to bear on it.
So if we are to move away from a fixation with just royalties and fiscal regimes, I think there are two big issues. The issue of local value addition, even possibly the structure of ownership of the exploiting entity, and then local value addition. As a leading think tank in the extractives, have you had the chance to review what this new government is contemplating with this company?
I think just to make a simple and direct answer, the controversy about the royalty, we need to go back to what the law says. Just focus on the mining. Some years ago, the law had provision. This thing has evolved with time. Early on, we had a sliding scale from, I think, 3 to 12. So a depending percent. So depending on the mineral or the market conditions, this thing moved. It was reduced, and then it got fixed at 5%. That 5% was then taken out. The provision was taken out of the act, and was put in there that the royalty rate will be fixed by the minister from time to time.
So this is a 2015 amendment of the law?
Yes, thereabouts. Yeah. From time to time. Now, with that amendment, it meant that instead of there being, to give flexibility for quick response, because you don't have to change the whole legislation. So the idea is that the legislative instruments will be used to announce rates. But the impression was that there will be a single rate at any time or multiple rates, but it has to be legislated. I don't think it should be interpreted as laying the basis for rates in individual contracts, because this is something that there's an attempt to move away from, to allow, patronage, manipulation of rates for benefit of individual entities. So so Goldfields, for example, was given a sliding rate of 3 to 5%, which we questioned as illegal, because this was not fixed for every body. So if 5% was the operating rate, and you give a company 10%, or you desire to give a company 10% royalty rate, you need to go through the legal processes and have it in the legislative instrument. I don't think that the root of an individual contract having that rate in it is correct. But however, it's become a justification, that legalism has become a justification for what is an economic choice. Because this is a government which controls parliament. All he has to do is to pass a more broad-based legislation which allows that 10% rate.
That's if they really want us to get 10%.
Yes,
because this is being presented as though the previous government signed 10% is illegal. So you are reverting to what is legal.
Yeah, so if you,
without thinking about what does Ghana get anyway.
If it's
and whose corner are you in?
If it's legality,
yes.
It is very simple to take the.
And the question is whose law has been broken? So for me, the majority's attempt.
It's a diversion.
It's a red herring.
It's a diversion.
So, and by the way, you've also said that we shouldn't overfixate on the royalty.
Yes.
Because you can
give me royalties are not important.
But if you can give me a 20% royalty and take everything else, and give me a 5% royalty and have other things. So my question is legitimate or it's the same question that have we looked at the other issues around, say, for example, a local joint ventureship, a local entity that does processing? Should we not look at the agreement holistically? Royalty, value addition, ownership, and then be able to say this is the best deal for Ghana.
Absolutely. But you see, the headline announcement was that there will be processing. But what they agreed with the company was that they will do a feasibility for whether processing will be possible. But in the meantime, they had already signed an off-taker agreement with a company in the US, which meant that there was a presumption that they will be able to export the mineral.
And this off-taker is basically importing it from us unprocessed.
Yes. So different messages. So there are political messages going out, and then there are economic relationships being set, with the company. So, but I think the coming back to the thing about having a holistic framework. I mean, there are a number of factors which go into this holistic thing. I mean, it is not every single deposit of a mineral that you exploit that you will be able to set up, say, an integrated process for, because the reserves may not be enough to support the investment for processing. So you may decide that maybe the best way to get additional value for that is how the supplies needed by the mine and its work, you strengthen the backward linkages. So the supplies to the mine, the procurement by the mine, for example, you can strengthen how the local content of that procurement as a way of integrating it with your economy. So there are different ways of getting more value than royalty from your mineral deposits through building linkages, a variety of linkages. You can even build the linkage by becoming a world-famous, having a world-famous R&D facility, research and development facility around that mineral and its possibilities. Okay?
Well, let me just tell you what the company has said. So, Ahmed Salim Adam, general manager of the company that we've entered the lease agreement with, has said that the company concluded and submitted the results of a feasibility study on setting up a processing plant in Ghana, and that it did not make domestic processing explicitly mandatory. They found that the plant commercially was not viable, citing the absence of a local value chain, inadequate infrastructure, and the limited production volumes expected from Atlantic Ewoya mine. These were the three reasons. And he said we would need about 3 Ewoya mines to make local value addition feasible.
Yes.
Unquote.
Yeah, I mean, it could be true. But the point to make, however, you see, is that what if we take that, it goes back to the point I'm making about the need for a comprehensive conception. Because you see, it's great to want to add value, but take our energy situation, for example. Energy is key. Okay, so you must have energy of a certain quality and other things which make the next stage possible. I mean, we had a presentation in this meeting here talking about our experiences. And one of the things that was said was China, for example, where they got to with their mineral processing, there was a 40-year horizon within which they got from where they started to where they are. I mean, China, of course, had some history before, but it's a good example of the long-termism Because Indonesia has had an experience of also moving in a particular way. But you need to get all those bits and pieces in place. It's not enough to have an aspiration. The aspiration must be backed by a plan, okay? And the starting point, of course, is the volume and quality of your deposit.
What about the argument that if we want to develop an integrated lithium processing, we will need at least 2 or 3 more companies to come in. And the best way to attract them is for the work at Avle to begin. It's been 2 years. So even if you're giving them very generous terms, if that attracts others to come in, the conditions for setting up the integrated lithium processing could happen, right? As we speak, at the time the agreement was initially contemplated, the price of lithium was excess of $2,000. It's now around $1,300. So clearly, we have lost some time. So there's an argument that we need to hasten, bring the first one in, prove the concept, and then over the long or medium term, this holistic thing you are contemplating can happen.
Well, yes and no. Because what we have experienced in many places, and also in Ghana here, if you give A certain terms, B will certainly say, I want those terms also. So the terms that we give to the first person must be clearly related to our ambitions. Okay? And also, if you have only one mind, it makes sense to make sure you are optimizing your revenue from the royalties. Okay? And your plan then allows you to evolve the thing. It brings him back to the point of how this first mind thing was not properly thought through and properly negotiated, which has led to this problem. The other thing is that if you took a slightly regional lens on the thing, Nigeria is producing lithium. There are processes where Chinese are about to set up plants there. I mean, too often, things for which we could be thinking regionally, we're constantly thinking nationally. So your ability to even attract capital for processing may be enhanced if you are sure that you have a wider base for your process. So the DRC, Democratic Republic in Congo, and Zambia, for example, they share borders. They have cobalt, they have copper. They have come together to have a development plan for how they work together to add value to their cobalt and their copper. Okay, they've chosen not to compete, but to harness the possibilities of scale and cooperation. So there are many pathways, but the starting point is how thoroughly have you thought about what you are doing and the pathways that you want to.
My goal for coming here,
and that applies also to how we're approaching the manganese, we're approaching the bauxite, because GUIDEC has been going round and round and round with claims about an integrated aluminum industry. We are
not seeing. My goal for coming here was to see case studies of specific countries and how they are handling aspects of their critical mineral value chains. So you mentioned, for example, DRC, where there's a center for excellence for batteries. I'll be speaking to Professor Kalele about this. South Africa as well, an organization called AfriVolt, speaking to them as well. It would be interesting to talk to somebody from outside Africa, because I heard the Indonesian Prime Minister talking about what they wanted to do with tin and manganese. And this was in a Western country, saying that they decided to ban the raw export of those products because they felt that the value addition imperative was now or never. So I'm going to sort of go into those, but I just wanted your final take on what should happen in Ghana now. All right? What should civil society and the public be demanding for? Because this government has a super majority. They seem to be saying that we will renegotiate the deal, but we are not very sure if it's based on a developmental state model or a crony capitalism agenda. So I'm not really sure what the public should be asking their MPs in relation to this lithium deal.
Yeah. Immediately on the royalty, I think they should not kid us. That's a legality issue. They can use the law to maintain the 10%. 2, across the continent, there's a consensus, including even from the last government, that we should move away from exporting raw minerals to having mechanisms that use minerals as a basis for industrialization, value addition, job creation, and so on and so forth, which is about building, linkages backwards and forward. I think that agenda should be the basis of how we go forward around the lithium. It may have regional dimensions, but we have to go forward that. And that also requires, therefore, that in this moment when there's a lot of interest in critical minerals, we take a deep breath and develop a proper strategy for the exploitation of Ghana's critical minerals. Because late last year, an African framework, the African Green Mineral Strategy, was developed, which is pointing to some of the ways in which countries can work together.
Right.
If you look at what some countries have developed for themselves, the quality and depth of work which has gone into it, it lays the basis not only for your mineral policy, for your mineral, but how minerals can contribute to an economic-wide transformation, which is why our conference is around this issue of how the energy transition, which requires the use of critical minerals, is also an opportunity for advancing Africa's structural economic transformation. And that really, in a microcosm, is what the Ghana project around critical minerals should also be about.
And we're coming to you from the sidelines of the first meeting of this international consultation on energy transition, critical minerals, and structural economic transformation. When we come back, we'll breeze through 3 case studies: South Africa, DRC, and possibly Indonesia, on case studies on how to treat these critical minerals. Stay with us.
Stronger brand you can trust. Polytank, we get some more Rambo and get some more super. And the Polytank we did.
Polytank, Papa no Asa.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswati. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late?
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. Coffee be the luckiest. Coffee from Georgia be luckiest. From not the block, she be luckiest. Yeah, you coffee be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be that luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Senya God the apple boom. If you put it toye, so would the coming of the son of man be. Is that his car?
Everywhere. Like it's everywhere.
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Attention all State Housing Company Limited homeowners, landowners and clients. From November 3rd to December 31st, 2025, the State Housing Company Limited is giving you a 15% discount on all outstanding payments.
Oh yes, pay less on your ground rent, land regularization, lease renewals, consents to develop or assign and service charges, and secure your ownership today.
Visit any SHC office nationwide to make your payment in full to benefit from the 15% discount.
You can locate the State Housing Company Limited at Ring Road West, adjacent STC Yard and Accra Digital Center.
For more information, visit our website www.statehousing.gov.ga or call 0302-221-422 or 0552-725-656 or 0503-083-393. Remember, this offer ends December 31st, 2025. Don't wait, pay less today.
Welcome back. The point of view tonight is discussing Ghana's lithium deal, but we're also asking in the second part what we can learn from some African case studies. Now, the DRC is exceptionally rich in a variety of critical minerals, making it a key player in the global supply chain for electronics and clean energy technologies. For example, cobalt. The DRC is the world's leading producer of cobalt, accounting for over 70% of the global supply. And they also have approximately half of the world's proven reserves. They also are blessed with copper, tin, and tungsten and other critical minerals. Professor Heracule Kalele is joining me from the DRC to talk about their approach to managing this resource and what we can learn. Prof, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good to have you in Ghana. What organization do you work for?
I'm working for two organizations. The first one is African Excellence Center for Battery, and the second one is the Congolese Battery Council.
So the African Center of Excellence for Batteries, what do you do there? What does it?
That is the academic part of the project, whose aim to build the capacity, how to call it again, the competencies, because the company who are coming will need a labor workforce with high skills. So at the African Excellence Center for Battery, you are building that capacity and you are innovating and doing research in the battery field.
So that's on the academic side. What about the Congo, the second organization?
The second organization, the Congolese Battery Council, that is the establishment from the government part, who is leading to put in place all the steps of the battery value chain.
So what has Congo done with these critical minerals that you believe is a key to economic transformation?
What we do right now is we think the policy we just putting in place is just to change the way you are thinking, the way we are doing, to take some action. Is that to convert from before it was like we have this mineral is coming from the pit to the port, but right now we want to add value and we integrate some new products, which is battery, electric battery for electric vehicle. So we are putting in place all the steps in the battery value chain from upstream to downstream. But we're not going to directly to downstream. We are going step by step. So we think that this initiative, you cannot do it by alone, because we are not the only one who getting that reserve. Our neighbor, the Zambian country, have also some reserve that we need that enter in the manufacture of battery precursor. So what we think and what we are together is to take together an initiative that will put battery and vehicle special economic zone where we're gonna manufacture battery precursor, where we're gonna transform, refine the cobalt, refine nickel on all the component that is going in the battery.
So this is something you are doing jointly with Zambia?
Yeah.
Is it already happening or is something you've planned to do?
Okay, it's happening. We are taking in some action. The first one is the agreement we signed between two countries, Zambia and DRC. We signed an agreement to develop the special economic zone. And the second agreement we signed is about DRC, Zambia, UNECA, Afreximbank, and BADEA. So Arabic Bank for Development, for Economic Development for Africa. So that agreement put in place a new mechanism that this project needs. So we see all the aspects of the project. And then we move forward, doing, okay, we need to choose where the located of the zone, because it's the conjoint zone, transborder zone. One part in Zambia, one part in Congo. Where is the best location? The best location have been funded. And we move again forward. We design a joint development agreement that we have promoter, we have the two countries between, and that agreement will be signed very soon. And after that steps, we move to going for financial model, design a financial model, and also we have a master plan for the how to call it, a management of the zone, the special economic zone.
So, by which date do you expect DRC to be producing batteries in your country?
That is a very, very difficult question. To produce battery is a good thing, but we need to build an economical ecosystem. Because if you produce battery right now, but if it's not entering the economical ecosystem, your battery will not be sold. So you need to go step by step. Which step is very important. But the problem, what we want to solve, is to add value of the minerals. It's not to implement all the steps of the battery value chain.
So at least add value initially, and then develop the capacity. So if possible, one day you can produce the full battery, yes. But for now, it's value addition.
Yeah.
So so has DRC banned the export of raw cobalt?
Yeah. We said it, that we banned the raw cobalt. And also, the cobalt what we are exporting is not raw cobalt and concentrate cobalt, but is cobalt hydroxide. You get just a few transformation. So we need to move to cobalt sulfate, which is integrating the battery grade material. The raw material for battery is, the model we're choosing is the NMC battery. And for NMC battery, the cobalt needs to be cobalt sulfate. So we're moving from hydroxide cobalt to cobalt sulfate.
Finally, what is your advice to Ghana as we discuss lithium? Because we're also contemplating an agreement with a company to extract lithium, and there's a big debate in Ghana. What is your advice to the country?
The advice I will give to Ghana, if I can, is just to see the model. You're not only rely on lithium, because lithium is one part of the component of the battery. So you need to have a model with integrated model. You see which country will need that lithium. We can put together and work together with that country. So you don't need to work alone, because you have many constraints. And also you see many countries wanted to produce lithium. And you need to have like alliance with those countries, then can see what is the cut of the quantity of the lithium you need to produce. To design your model according to what the market is asking for. And you need to have people who does have the technology. So you need to build many things. So it's a full project, and the project will have many components.
Wonderful.
You need to integrate all that component in the project. Especially, you need to build the skills.
All right.
So I don't know, it's the first time you have a lithium. So you are mining lithium, you need to create the competences to transform and refine the lithium.
Thank you, Professor Heracule Kalele from the Congo Cobalt Council and also the Center of Excellence for Batteries, where they work together with their neighbors, Zambia, to develop the value chain for critical minerals. This is still the point of view. We're turning our attention next to South Africa, where I'll be speaking to somebody else with some ideas from that country on how to manage these critical minerals. Stay with us.
When malaria strikes your home, it strikes everything. No more endless worry because of malaria. Fight malaria back with Vegetem. Vegetem is effective, safe, and fast-acting against malaria. Vegetem tablets stays effective right to the very last tablets. Vegetem is also available in suspension for children. Vegetem, tough on malaria, easy on you.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswati. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be later?
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go feel the luckiest. Coffee from Georgia be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go feel be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Senya God the apple boom. If you put it was a so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
In December 2023, the biggest play in the history of African theatre made its debut.
Before Ogun, the God of Iron, I stand on oath.
You saw it.
We sent you all the way to Ileife to bring us greetings from Ifa.
By popular demand and in honor of Maoli Semevo, Image Bureau, in partnership with April Communications and the National Theatre, presents The Gods Are Not to Blame this December 17th, 7 p.m., 18th, 7 p.m., and 19th, 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. at the National Theatre. Visit www.imagebureaugh.com or dial star 714 star 46 hash for your tickets. Single 250 CDs, double 400 CDs. Supported by New Plant Car Rentals, Ghana Tourism Authority, Balakwa. Sponsors Stambic Bank, our media partners, and proudly brought to you by MTN.
About critical minerals, Ghana's discussions around lithium, and looking at quick case studies from across the world. We just spoke to a friend from DRC. I'm going to be talking to a friend from South Africa in the person of Deshan Naidu. He's with a company called Afrivolt, and he will tell us what they do. But for those of you who may be wondering, South Africa is not just known for gold. They're a very resource-rich country indeed. They have vast mineral wealth, including the world's largest reserves of what is called the platinum group metals and manganese. And South Africa as well is known for gold and diamonds and the rest of them. So what are some of the things happening in the South African space in relation to these critical minerals, and how can Ghana copy or modify some of these? So Deshan, thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So we in Ghana always talk about South Africa as the example of gold, and people compare Johannesburg to Obuasi, where they say Johannesburg is built on gold and Obuasi has been left unbuilt. So is the story as rosy as we see it from there, that look, South Africa's development is largely due to mineral wealth? Is that correct?
Well, you know the saying that goes, not all that glitters is gold. And I think that is very much the case, not only for South Africa, for a lot of African-rich, mineral-rich countries, right? Where initially you have this boom in terms of economic activity and job creation as a consequence of mining activity. But I think in South Africa specifically, we talk about the last 10 to 15 years as being the lost decade or the last decade and a half, where you saw a lot of these big, giant mining companies not investing in exploratory mining assets, as a consequence of other issues in terms of geopolitics as well as domestic politics. You look at the corruption, for example, in South Africa, the lack of service delivery. So to answer your question, I do not think that is the case.
But certainly you would say that some of your country's economic development has been supported by a prudent use of the resources from mining, generally.
I don't know if I agree with that, and maybe I'm taking a bit of a contrarian approach.
No problem.
Again, my approach is based not in a representation of my company, but this is my personal view. And the reason I say this is because if you think about the lagging effect of, the multiplier effect of mining and the economic activity associated with it, what we find is that a lot of this wealth has been externalized from South Africa. So yes, whilst we have these mineral deposits, we don't feel as if there's been, to use the word, a just development of these resources in our country. With a lot of these major mining companies headquartered and listed outside South Africa now, and as I mentioned, the lack of rehabilitation of mining sites, as well as bringing in CSOs into the mix and ensuring that the community benefits from this. I think over the last, I'd say 2 decades or so, there's definitely been an increase in the amount of responsibility for mine rehabilitation, tailing rehabilitation, and just ensuring that the community benefits from these activities. But back in the heyday of the gold rush, I don't think these were front of mind, and as a consequence, I wouldn't say that it has been significant value addition in terms of economic activity relative to what we could have.
Wonderful. Now that we are at the, I won't say the cusp of the energy transition, essentially within the middle of the energy transition, what opportunity do you think these critical minerals offer to countries like South Africa, DRC, or even Ghana as a way of changing the narrative?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
So my point is, now we are in an energy transition.
Yes.
What opportunity do these critical minerals like manganese, lithium, cobalt, what do they offer for us to change the narrative around exploiting minerals and basically exporting them raw?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a fundamental opportunity. I'm sure you've heard it from the other speakers as well. We are really at the cusp of economic development as a continent. People talk about Africa as the last frontier of industrialization, and I truly believe that. I believe that we have the opportunity that the oil giants had 50 years ago in terms of ensuring that this is the last opportunity that we have to create economic activity in our continent. So we need to do this in a very pragmatic and inclusive way. And it is important to ensure that we actually beneficiate these minerals and create economic activity on the back of that beneficiation, and ensure that we do this in an inclusive manner. So, if we talk about the lithium-ion battery market, it is one of the largest growing industries in the world at this point in time. And Africa is sitting on significant wealth of mineral resources associated with this energy transition. So it is important that we create partnerships, and partnerships I emphasize, because I think a lot of this cannot be unlocked without co-opetition and collaboration with our competition in order to actually achieve the quality of resource beneficiation that we require to feed into this value chain.
Your company has been portrayed here at this conference as a good example of an industrial startup that can partner with, whether it's government or international players, to really add value and also develop local competence. Talk to me about AfriVolt and why it's an important piece in this jigsaw.
Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity. So AfriVolt is, as you mentioned, an industrial startup. We are pioneering lithium-ion cell manufacturing in Southern Africa, and we're doing this in collaboration with a Tier 1 Chinese partner. Now, if we look at the global battery industry, the reason that this is important is, for the audience as well, there's significant strain on the South African electricity grid. And over the last couple of years, we've had significant outages and blackouts on a rolling basis as a consequence of a lack of reinvestment into infrastructure in our electricity grid. And fortuitously, and I think this is for the main in Africa, we have great solar irradiation heat maps. And as a consequence, we've managed to bring in a significant amount, north of 5 gigawatts of renewable energy over the last several years. And aligned with this new renewable energy, we need to also ensure that there's an element of storage that occurs. because as the sun shines, because we have such constraints on the grid, sometimes the grid cannot support the renewable energy influx. And instead of that energy being dissipated into the atmosphere after being generated, storage becomes a very important piece of that jigsaw puzzle. Further to that, I think if you look at the cost per kilowatt hour and the reduction of those battery cells and the battery products over the last several years, it is now a no-brainer for most renewable projects to have an element of storage associated with it. And this is what we want to do as AfriVolt. Right now, if you look at global market dynamics, out of Asia, north of 70% of batteries are produced in Asia, and more than 95% of processing of battery minerals to battery grade occurs in Asia. So I think as a continent, it is important to ensure that we try and nearshore that, create these regional value chains, and then unlock the economic activity. But again, to do it in a very just
When should we expect to see the first few batteries from AfriVolt? Where are you in that conversation? How close are you to your first manufacturer?
We're close. And when I say close, again, this project has been like herding cats, to be honest with you. It's such a complicated industry when it looks at the intellectual property and the transfer thereof from Asian players. I think we are one signature away from hopefully a joint venture agreement, which we aim to announce next year. And then first cells off the line probably towards the end of 2028.
Wonderful.
So that's where we're at in the process.
I wish you well. Hope to talk to you soon. Deshan Naidu is from AfriVolt, a technology industrial startup doing some wonderful things within the battery space in South Africa. AfriVolt is the name of the company. This is still the point of view. We're moving next to Kenya and hopefully end in Indonesia as we discuss this very interesting sector. Stay with us. So the point of view tonight is very unique because beyond discussing a Ghana topic, we're also speaking to friends from across the continent to get a more balanced perspective of the debate around how do we manage our critical minerals. Of course, lithium is the big one in Ghana. The conversation is not just for governments and corporates, also for civil society groups. And I'm very happy to bring into the conversation Ikal Angele, who's from Friends of Turkana. You are co-organizers of this conference, right?
Yes.
So who are Friends of Turkana?
So Friends of Turkana is a grassroots community organization that really brings the voices of communities. And in this particular role, we are working with TWN Africa and South Africa Resource Watch because they work mostly at a national, regional level, and we are trying to bring the voices of communities because as you talk about minerals or other resources, energy, it is happening in community lands. So it's really making sure that as we discuss the shift, the transition, that the voices of and the impacts of local communities is taken into account.
My little geography tells me Turkana is a lake.
Yes, it is a lake in northern Kenya.
And so which minerals are within that broad area? And what do the Friends of the Turkana advocate for?
So where we are is where the wind farm is. So we have the largest wind farm in Africa.
Okay.
And because, as we know, the move to renewable energy is really around not only the critical minerals, but the critical minerals are contributing to solar panels and wind turbines. So that we have the largest wind farm in Africa. And what we are basically saying is that as we look at this transition, we've got to ask ourselves, who's bearing the costs? Because communities, whether it is on the lithium, who are being, for example, the Atewa forest, where your resources are, the people who are being displaced. So we are actually asking the question, who's bearing the cost? And why should certain communities be the ones to be displaced in this transition?
Are the communities in your region involved at any point in discussions around setting up these wind farms? Is it through the chiefs? Is it through how do you get into the conversation?
So usually the government signs an agreement, and in this particular case, the government of Kenya has given guarantee. And so the investors come in and set up the wind farm. While at it, then it means that for the communities, it's the displacement that happens. They are usually engaged for a level of, corporate social responsibilities. But at that particular time, what is the CSR versus the livelihood impact of these communities? So in the essence, communities are rarely informed. And when they are, they're actually informed from a place of vulnerability, less to really engage with.
The challenge in Ghana is usually that chiefs will then go and agree to some royalty payments, which they don't account for generally, and therefore they will say we support this. In your case, how do you have community meetings? And even if you engage the company or the government, what beneficiation comes to the communities that get affected by this type of exploitation?
So in the Kenyan context, yes, there are community meetings, but again, you know, when it's state-driven, then there's that challenge where you're thinking it is the state. A lot of these places are far from the city, and so the presence of state is quite heavy. When the companies are coming in, they engage the communities, but from a place of we will give you jobs, we will give you, you know, education, we will give you things. But at the same time, they're not actually recognizing that this is your resource. I think that's the one thing that the beneficiation conversation has to recognize, that this is a resource that belongs to the people. It's take for example your cocoa. You know, it is yours. So if I'm coming to buy cocoa from you, I'm buying it from you. I'm not asking you that I give you CSR and give you education, so I take your cocoa. So I guess we have to start to really ask ourselves, how do we view these resources, and who is it critical for? How should we engage from a place of ownership, from a place of really understanding, and sadly, because our governments seem to be engaging with this conversation from a place of immediate resources. So there's a desperation for immediate revenues that is leading them to, you know, cut deals, but also their own. Again, you see, for a lot of these things, elections are 5 years, but these resources are longer. So you find a lot of the politicians engaging from an electoral cycle rather than a prosperity of the state, of the system.
I find your CSO very interesting, because we do have local community-based CSOs, but they don't really get voice. So for a community-based CSO to be on the continental level, even here, it tells me you have a different approach. And even though you may be fighting for local issues, it's from a broader national context. How did you do that? Because most CSOs who are engaging critically at national debates are based in the capital city, and they're basically donor funded. But yours is doing a lot of things at the same time. So just tell me a bit about your model and what we can learn from that.
I mean, one of the things for this particular meeting, from this it's a partnership of 3 organizations, but it's also of 3 different meetings. We actually were able to bring together community members and miners from 23 countries to be able to just say, what are some of the community conversations? And I think that is very critical, because as long as, you know, national NGOs are talking about these things, I think they should be informed from communities' perspectives.
Yeah.
And so our model is really, how do you build from the communities, organizing from the communities up, but also, again, our struggles are not specific to Kenya. You've got to also see that they're happening, the same struggles, the same challenges are being faced by communities in Guinea, are being faced by communities in Cameroon, the DRC, as you've heard from my colleague, from the previous speaker. So you see these challenges. And so unless we're able to build a community of practice amongst community members so that they can shape and inform the public debate and advocacy agenda for the NGOs,
wonderful,
then we're stuck.
So if you're watching this in a community, you have agency, you have voice, as our friend from Kenya, Ikal, has been eloquently espousing. It's not a conversation for politicians or business elites alone. The resource belongs to you, so get involved. It's been great talking to you, actually.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. This is still the point of view. We'll wrap up when we come back. We've been discussing Ghana's lithium deal through the lens of a number of comparative countries. Stay with us.
Papa no no, papa no no, papa no no, papa no no, no, papa no no, Ankasa. Polytech is everywhere, durable and authentic. Stronger brand you can trust. Polytech, we get sumo, Rambo, and get sumo super. And the Polytech, we did.
Polytech, papa no Ankasa.
In December 2023, the biggest play in the history of African theatre made its debut.
Before Oku, the god of iron, I stand on oath.
You saw it.
We sent you all the way to Ileife to bring us greetings from Ifa.
By popular demand And in honor of Maoli Sandoval, Image Bureau, in partnership with April Communications and the National Theatre, presents The Gods Are Not to Blame this December 17th, 7 p.m., 18th, 7 p.m., and 19th, 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. at the National Theatre. Visit www.imagebureaugh.com or dial star 714 star 46 hash for your tickets. Single 250 cedis, double 400 cedis. Supported by New Plant Car Rentals, Ghana Tourism Authority, Balakwa. Sponsors Stambic Bank, our media partners, and proudly brought to you by MTN.
So we're wrapping up with a trip to Indonesia, where that country is one of the world's leading producers of nickel, which is another essential component for these batteries. And my guest is an expert staff at the Ministry for Empowering Communities called Iwan Nudin. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Your country has been seen from our side as one that's done very well in insisting on adding value to a critical mineral. What does Indonesia do with nickel that's so exemplary?
Yeah, because we understand today battery is the very strategic in terms of the transition of energy. Then our government trying to develop the special economic zone for nickel and inviting all over the world to invest in Indonesia for smelter. And we are banned of the raw material export. It's meaning we are trying to make reposition of our position before as a raw exporter material, then becoming the one of the leading country to produce battery. And we invite Euro, we invite Elon Musk, but unfortunately they didn't want to come to Indonesia, and China come to Indonesia more aggressively. So we choose China. It doesn't mean of political preference. It's very pragmatic because China is ready to invest in Indonesia. And what I want to say is we really understand about the transition of energy. Then we need to repositioning our position because from the colonial era until maybe 20 years ago, Indonesia still as a raw material exporter. So we are trying to make a difference.
How long has it been since your country banned the export of raw nickel?
10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
And you say it's been worth it?
Yeah.
So what percentage of your nickel do you convert into batteries?
And nickel is the one of the resources for the battery, right? With the cobalt and lithium, but also nickel is resources for the stainless steel. Yeah, we understand the stainless steel and also the battery is the base of industrial in Indonesia. So, but actually the downstreaming, it's not only the nickel. We are also make an implementation of downstreaming on plant station, particularly on palm oil, and also in fisheries. Meaning we understand our resources need to make us more richer, and the way to do that is make a downstreaming industry in Indonesia. And our ministry work is for make a implication of the industry. Sometimes it's not good for the community. So the government developed the new Minister of Empowering Community. That's we empowering the community around the industrial area, around the downstreaming area to make them more capacity to involve with the industry, and also they still maintain this economy.
So there's a whole ministry around communities where resources are exploited or where industrialization affects.
Yes.
This is not just for nickel, it applies to oil, palm, and all of those.
Yes, yes, yes.
Wow. How long has the ministry been in existence?
It's just new ministry.
It's a new
actually.
ministry.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are some of the things you do in the communities?
We have developed the cluster for the empowering community, particularly to propose the poverty eradication and also to make them have a capability to increase their productivity and income.
Amazing. And how interesting is this model for other countries? Because I'm not sure in Ghana there's a ministry for community empowerment yet.
Actually, the government already used the many empowering, right, to the community in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of skill, but it's not organized well and may be fragmented in different institutions. So that's why we understand that Indonesia needs to organize more one institution to empowering the community, because the empowering is the government obligation, right?
Amazing stuff. So Iwan Nurdin is with the Ministry for Community Empowerment. He's a technical person from that ministry here at the sidelines of this international consultation on energy transition, critical minerals, and structural economic transformation. What would you say Indonesia has gotten to in its journey of transformation? Is Indonesia an economic powerhouse yet, or you're still in transition to becoming a so-called first world country? Where is Indonesia?
Indonesia, it's maybe the next global powerhouse in the battery and then in the plantation, particularly in palm oil. But we need a strategy to implement that. We need the sequence of implementation. So we developed the master plan of the industrialization. That's why Indonesian government trying to make a very sequence. The first is ban the raw material export, and then invite the investor, and also we need the collaborating with the more financial institution to invest more on the way of Indonesia to go to the become a powerhouse of the industrialization.
Iwan,
it's a long journey.
Amazing. Thanks for talking to us. Iwan Nurdin is with the ministry that coordinates empowering communities, and he's been talking to us in this very interesting conversation around critical minerals, coming to you from the International Consultation on Energy Transition and Critical Minerals. My name is Bernard Avle. We started with Dr. Al Graham. We took a trip to a few countries. We were in DRC. We also spoke to South Africa, Kenya, and then in Indonesia. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.